Hello everyone, this is the Millennial Investor here with the June update. Let's go ahead and get started with my Lending Club account. Right away you're going to notice that my adjusted account value has increased quite a bit. I did mention that I was going to put in an additional $1,000 this month, which I did. I would have put more, but something happened, which I'll talk about in a second. But my interest has jumped from about $21 for that previous month to roughly $29 in the new month. So my interest has been steadily increasing as I put more money in. That makes perfect sense. And right now I'm sitting at about 150 notes. So 150 pings per month, things are looking good. Now, I had the potential of investing more in Lending Club this month. But around May 10th or so, something happened with the Lending Club company. And what that was there was some issues with the current CEO, or the previous CEO, I guess, because he had to resign, having some benefits or conflicts of potential interest with some kind of deal that they were trying to make. So apparently he had some stake in the deal, and the other people in the company, I guess on the board or so, they didn't realize that. And when they did, they weren't cool with it because you're supposed to disclose that information. On top of that, apparently there was some issue with one of their larger investors who needed notes of a certain quality, and Lending Club and the president knew this, or the CEO knew this. They kind of adjusted or tweaked the notes so they would match the criteria that were needed so that they could package these notes as part of the deal to this large investment company. And of course, once wind got caught of this, that kind of forced the CEO to resign in order to maintain the correct image and integrity of Lending Club. But every time you have a CEO resign from a company, or typically when you do, that usually causes a drop in the stock price. So the price went from around $7 or so down to about $3.51 in a matter of a week. Or actually in a matter of a couple days, if you think about it. Yeah, it dropped pretty fast. And when that happened, I had about $3,600 in, which is what I currently have invested. And I kind of stopped because the only money that's kind of insured by Lending Club is your available cash. Right now that's sitting in a bank account somewhere. But the money that's tied into notes is not insured. So if they go bankrupt, then I'm going to be sitting around for a while until some kind of lawyers come through and help free up some of my money. Now I say some because I'd probably lose a good portion of it, and I kind of didn't want that to happen, so I kind of just stepped back for a week or so until they got a large investment, until business prospects were saying that like Lending Club is gonna make a turnaround, and now their stock prices are starting to turn around. They're starting to gain some of that faith and confidence back in the market, and I think they actually sold 11% of their company to a large investment firm or something. So their price jumped from $3.51 to about $5. And if you think about it, if I had just invested in Lending Club when it was at the 351 mark and sold short at 492, I would probably make more money than I would just investing in Lending Club. But of course, I didn't have the money set up at the time, so I couldn't just invest it like that. But hey, that's the stock market for you. Okay, taking a look at some other information real quick, you'll see that I'm on track this month to making even more of a gain. My weighted average is 13.64%, and I've since gained confidence back in Lending Club, so I have started reinvesting, and I have another 200 on the way, as well as I have purchased a traded note for $8.87 that should yield me 15% APY if it pays out. So this person had consistently on-time payment history, and I just wanted to give a traded note a try. So I purchased it, and I'm going to actually make an update on that note but in about 6 months or so, just to see how it turned out. Okay, on to the Prosper side of things. I'm at $859.99. I've invested about $130 more into Prosper this month, and on the surface level, things are looking pretty good. If we take a look at all the payments, I've jumped from about $10 to about $16, so I've made about $6 or so since the last video. Not a lot, But the thing you might notice is that my acquisition yield is dropping. So I'm at about 12.68%, whereas for Lending Club, I'm at about 13.64%. So the reason for that is because Prosper isn't getting those high quality notes that I need to invest in. When I look through notes, I'm just not seeing the correct patterns or the correct note or like the correct information to confidently feel like I can invest in a note. And I'm not going to invest in a note with a 30% interest rate if I have no faith that the borrower is going to pay it back. So I've actually been investing in cheaper notes. You can see the latest one going through 9.7%. Not a lot, but probably the highest yield for that amount, for that investment. So I'm going to continue to stick with Prosper as well, but if they can't get their quality up or get enough borrowers to make it worth my while, and if this number keeps dropping, I can see myself just making a complete shift over to Lending Club. Now, on top of that, Prosper also had a note, this note right over here, $10,000, that failed to pay. So I'm going to kind of pull up that information just to show you. They attempted a payment, it was an automatic payment, and it didn't go through, it failed. And you know what? Sometimes we set up the wrong bank account, it happens. So when that happened, I had the opportunity to sell that note when the next payment started initiating, but I didn't because it was a manual payment. So I thought that they're going to, if you're manually setting it up so that it would pay, then of course I'd think it would go through. And they even doubled the amount. So I'm like, oh, so they recognize their mistake and they're even doubling it to show that they are confident to pay back the note. So I held back on selling this note. Of course, it failed as well. So that was 2. And something you should know about Prosper is you cannot sell a note that is late on a payment. Even if it's a single day late, even if it's still in grace period, you cannot sell that note. So I'm just looking at a $25 loss here when suddenly another payment goes through. So this payment is going through right now. I don't know if it's going to clear or not. The last 2 didn't. But when it is processing, the note is technically current. And that's an opportunity to sell the note if you don't trust the note. So, 2 times was enough for me. Even if this payment goes through, if we took a look at this person's information, they're trying to pay off a $10,000 loan with a stated income of $100,000, debt to income ratio of 5%, and a bank to card utilization of 28% for $3,000, which would, I guess, mean that they only have about $14,000 of credit, which I guess doesn't even make sense for this much salary, unless they just started credit cards. But they started back in 2009, so yeah, that doesn't make sense. There's some information here that isn't matching up. Either the salary is incorrect, either the credit line wasn't open at that time, something is wrong. So even if they make that payment, I just don't trust this borrower anymore. So I actually ended up selling the note for an 11% loss. You can see I went to the trading platform. It's current, so I was able to sell it. I started at 5%, and every 8 hours or so I kept increasing it a little until it finally sold at 11%. So I'm going to take a $2 to $3 loss on this, but $2 to $3 versus a $25 loss, that's perfectly fine. I still am profitable in my Prosper account for the month, so it happens, and hopefully it won't happen again, but it happens, so eventually you got to make a call. I've lost faith in this note, so I made that call. Okay, so that's the June update, I guess. Hopefully you found it useful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. If you'd like to subscribe to check out the July update when it comes in, feel free to subscribe and you'll be able to see it at the first of the month. Otherwise, I'm going to keep investing and keep you up to date on these 2 platforms. Okay, this is the Millennial Investor signing out. Peace, guys.